I inherited the ranch 2 months after my grandfather passed away. 1,700 acres of open prairie stretched farther than I could see. Power poles crossed the property in long straight lines toward a luxury HOA neighborhood. At the time, I didn't think much about them. The ranch had been in my family for generations. My grandfather built everything with his own hands. Every fence, every barn, every water line carried his history, and I intended to protect every inch of it. The neighborhood HOA looked completely different from ranch life. Massive houses lined perfect streets behind decorative stone entrances. Everything looked polished and controlled. Honestly, it felt like a different world entirely. For the first few weeks, things stayed peaceful. I focused on repairing fences and organizing old equipment. Most days were quiet, except for cattle and distant wind. That silence was exactly why I moved there. Then utility trucks started crossing my property constantly. They drove across open field without asking permission. Sometimes they left gates open behind them. Other times, they damaged sections of fencing completely. At first, I tried being reasonable. I asked the workers politely to respect the ranch. Most ignored me completely. A few acted annoyed that I even mentioned it. One evening, 3 cattle escaped through an open gate. I spent hours tracking them down near the county road. Luckily, nobody got hurt, but that situation could have ended badly. The next morning, I contacted the utility company directly. They promised improvements and better communication, but nothing actually changed afterward. The trucks kept coming exactly the same way. A week later, the HOA president visited my ranch personally. Her name was Susan, and somehow she managed to sound offended before even saying hello. That conversation only got worse from there. Susan complained about my cattle standing near the utility road. She claimed residents hated the smell and appearance. Then she started criticizing my fencing and storage barns too. Apparently, my ranch offended her neighborhood standards. I reminded her the ranch existed long before the HOA neighborhood. She smiled politely, but clearly didn't care. In her mind, the HOA controlled everything nearby, including property that didn't belong to them. That night, I started reviewing my grandfather's old paperwork carefully. Property maps covered the entire kitchen table. Old contracts sat stacked inside dusty storage boxes. And eventually, I found something interesting. Buried deep inside the files was the original utility easement agreement. The document allowed power lines across the ranch decades earlier. But one sentence immediately caught my attention. The agreement had an expiration date. At first, I assumed I misunderstood the paperwork, so I contacted a property attorney the next morning. After reviewing the documents carefully, he confirmed exactly what I suspected. The easement rights had officially expired months earlier without renewal approval from the property owner. Continued access across the ranch was no longer guaranteed. That changed everything instantly. Meanwhile, Susan kept escalating problems with the HOA. More complaint letters started appearing at my gate. Residents blamed my ranch equipment for lowering community appearance. Honestly, the entitlement became exhausting. Then utility crews damaged another fence section during repairs. This time, they drove heavy trucks directly through wet pasture land. Deep tire tracks destroyed part of the field completely. That was the moment my patience finally ended. I called another meeting with the utility company immediately. This time, I brought copies of the expired easement paperwork. The manager sitting across the table looked nervous instantly. They realized the situation was serious. The utility company requested temporary access extensions immediately. Apparently, relocating the power infrastructure would cost millions, and the HOA depended entirely on those lines for electricity. Suddenly, everyone wanted to negotiate respectfully. Susan still acted confident at first. She claimed the HOA had permanent rights regardless of paperwork, but confidence disappears quickly when lawyers get involved, especially when official property records say otherwise. County surveyors arrived a few days later. They inspected every property boundary carefully. Every map confirmed the same conclusion. The power corridor legally crossed my ranch. Rumors spread through the HOA neighborhood fast afterward. Residents started worrying about possible outages and legal battles. Emergency HOA meetings filled the clubhouse nightly. Nobody seemed calm anymore. Meanwhile, I stayed focused on ranch work. Feeding cattle felt far more productive than arguing with Susan, honestly. The quiet prairie mornings helped clear my mind, and I knew the paperwork was on my side. The utility company finally admitted they needed formal permission moving forward. Without legal access, maintenance work could stop entirely. That possibility terrified the HOA board immediately because the neighborhood depended on uninterrupted power. Susan showed up at my ranch again during negotiations. This time, her tone sounded completely different. No threats, no lectures, just nervous frustration. She asked me not to cause problems for the neighborhood. I almost laughed hearing that sentence. For months, the HOA caused nothing but problems for me. Now, suddenly, they wanted cooperation. After another damaged fence incident, I made my decision. Until new agreements were finalized properly, all unrestricted access across the ranch would stop immediately. And the utility company received official notice that evening. The next morning, locked gates blocked utility trucks from entering the property. Workers sat outside waiting for instructions, and for the first time in years, they actually needed permission before crossing my land. Residents inside the HOA started panicking almost instantly. Any maintenance delay now threatened possible service interruptions. People suddenly realized how dependent they were on my ranch. That reality changed attitudes very quickly. If you enjoyed the story, make sure to like and subscribe to Care and Conflict, and tell me in the comments, where are you watching from?